Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
What do you believe in? What would you file under the things that are articles of faith, matters of belief, rather than matters of fact, rather than things that are built upon evidential proof, like God? You believe in God. You can't prove that God exists. You believe in, I don't know, the American dream? Belief. I believe in something. Belief. It's 4 minutes after 11. A very good morning to you, because the newspapers today have moved further on the Brexit motion by saying that we believe in, we need to have an ambassador who believes in Brexit. I don't know what that means. You believe in fairies, right? You believe in God. You believe in, belief is what you hold when things are unprovable. What does believe in Brexit mean? Sir Ivan Rogers has apparently resigned. It could have gone the other way. I mean, you'll remember towards the end of last year, he's the fella whose advice was leaked, and that advice was that the negotiations could take 10 years and then still fail.
But it is Sir Ivan Rogers and the reasons around his departure that have still been dominating today. A man with extraordinary contacts and expertise on Europe, who nonetheless has gone, and people have still been wondering today, why did he go? In a farewell email to his staff at the UK's office in Brussels, Sir Ivan Rogers underlines the black hole his disappearance creates in the UK's Brexit negotiating team. Sir Ivan writes, "Serious multilateral negotiating experience is in short supply in Whitehall, and that is not the case in the European Commission or the European Council." Sir Ivan then exhorts his former colleagues to challenge ill-founded arguments and muddled thinking, and never be afraid to speak truth to those in power.
Well, this will be a very serious gap. Ivan Rogers is the most experienced Europeanist left in the British civil service. He's someone with a real track record of working in Brussels, knowing how those arcane negotiations work. And without him, we don't really have anyone at the senior ranks left who can do that.
Rather petulant, I thought, the release of this email, this long-winded email full of I, me, speaking truth to power, really rather pompous, really. All of that tells me that this individual probably wasn't really trusted.
Headlines warning it could take 10 years to finish a Brexit deal with Europe popped up just as Theresa May pulled up at last month's Brussels summit. They were the trigger for this resignation. Someone had leaked an earlier Ivan Rogers email to the PM warning EU leaders thought a new relationship wouldn't be finalised until the mid-2020s. Someone wanted to portray Sir Ivan as a footbragger. Friends of Sir Ivan Rogers say he is 100% convinced that the Prime Minister's two most senior aides in Number 10 were behind the leaking of his email. And he believes they did it to damage him and in the hope he would walk early from his job. In Number 10, they say the Prime Minister wouldn't have wanted headlines like this on her way into the Brussels summit, and you can tell that from the fact she didn't want to talk about them.
Do you think it could take 10 years to negotiate a trade deal once Britain leaves the EU?
Well, what we'll be discussing at this summit is how we work together to deal with the serious challenges that we face.
It's always hard to know where leaks have come from, so you have to look at in whose interest is the leak. And I think pretty clearly there it's in the interest of someone who wanted to undermine our man in Brussels. And what they need most of all now from the civil servants is fearless, unvarnished advice about the opportunities but also the risks and the difficulties. And if when you send that into London you find it's leaked and then you're pilloried around town, that doesn't do anything for confidence.
In his message to staff in his old Brussels office, Sir Ivan pleads with them not to follow him out the door. I understand quite a few officials out there might have been giving that some thought. Sir Ivan also takes a swipe at those around Whitehall who believe you can move just like that from EU membership to free trade. His message to them is that you need free trade agreements to underpin any free trade that isn't smuggling, and they take time. That, I understand, reflects an argument that Ivan Rogers has had quite a few times in private with the Secretary of State for exiting the EU, David Davis.
Gary Gibbon reporting. Well, we did, of course, ask to speak to the relevant government ministers, but no one was available. With me is Labour's shadow Brexit secretary, Keir Starmer, and the Conservative MP and Brexit supporter, Dominic Raab. You want David Davis, who's the Brexit man you're up against, to come to Parliament to explain what's been going on.
Yes, I've asked him to come to Parliament and to make a statement because we've got the fact of Sir Ivan's resignation, and I'm glad there's been an appointment made in the last hour or so. But then there are the underlying reasons that he set out. And in particular, I think the concern that he says there's no negotiating objectives agreed yet, and that the team isn't properly resourced, the negotiating EU team, and structures and roles haven't been organised. Now, obviously, it takes a bit of time to get this done, but we're now 10 to 11 weeks away. So I think the government's actually been silent on this, apart from, as I say, the fact of the resignation. The substance of the charge needs to be answered. And I think David Davis needs to come to Parliament and reassure not just the opposition and Parliament, but the country that there actually is a plan, they do know what they're doing, and that they've got the right structures and teams in place because time is running out.
Well, one of the problems is that Sir Ivan's letter seems to indicate, or email, seems to suggest that there's a grave absence of a plan.
Well, I think this is real. I mean, we've been pressing for a plan for some months. Now, I am sympathetic to the argument that the government needs to get this right. There are difficult judgment calls. But we're now in January. We've got weeks left. There has to be a plan. We're not even in the territory of whether it should be disclosed. There's a basic question. Do you actually know now what your negotiating objectives are? And that's why David Davis really has to come to the House and answer that question.
But there is a profound difficulty, isn't there? I mean, there is an institution, the Foreign Office, who have been charged with trying to make the European Union work in Britain's interests for 4 decades, and now suddenly being asked to unpick it. It's hardly surprising there's a bit of a hiccup on the way.
Well, I wouldn't describe this as a hiccup along the way. I mean, this resignation coming as it does weeks before the negotiations start. But there is a deeper issue here. When I was Director of Public Prosecutions, I had to make difficult decisions. I needed challenge, and the civil service and the excellent civil service advice helped make good decisions. And I think it's a great shame if there's any sense of pushing to one side those that would want to put in relevant and robust challenge to what any government wants to do. We've got to be very careful on this.
Do you have confidence in the appointment of Sir Tim?
Yeah, I think he's an interesting choice. He's a criminologist by background, having been ambassador to Russia and the Ukraine, and that's probably about the right skill set to taking on and going into bat with Brussels. His reputation as well is one of a fixer, not particularly weighed down by the kind of EU institutional position that the Foreign Office is reputed to have, rightly or wrongly.
Although he's worked very happily in it.
In some of the aspects like security and certain other areas, but that's not been his bread and butter for X number of years. My view is actually it's a savvy appointment. He'll bring some fresh thinking, and actually what we now need to do is row behind the Brexit team, because what everyone wants to see watching this show is a united team delivering for the whole country.
You see him therefore as a man with a plan?
Well, you don't expect your ambassador in Brussels to be the one to come up with a plan. But the truth is, we already know a huge amount about what Britain wants to achieve. It wants to give effect to the referendum.
Oh, no, we all know what they want to achieve, but we have no idea what on earth the plan is for achieving it.
Well,
neither do you.
Well, I know very clearly, because the Prime Minister set out, that we're going to take back control over immigration. We're not going to be subject to free movement rules. We want to be a global leader in free trade, so that means we don't want the EU negotiating our free trade agreements. We said we're coming out of the ECJ jurisdiction, but as Keir said, and everyone knows, you don't disclose the detail of your hand before the 2 years of Brexit poker has even got underway.
Well, you don't lose your man on the job the moment just before he's about to get on with it. Why should we have any confidence at all that poor Sir Tim Barrow won't go the same way?
Well, the remarkable thing about what you've shown and what Sir Keir said so far is that you've not mentioned the 2 reasons that in his letter, which I have here, Sir Ivan gave for stepping down.
Yes, he actually indicates very strongly he was pushed out by number 10.
No, he doesn't say that.
He does. If you read between the lines, you've got a lot.
So you want to read between the lines. I'll take it at face value. He says, first of all, I was stepping down in October anyway. Shouldn't the person who completes the Brexit negotiations also begin then?
Well, look, that's been the case for months, and that could have been fixed ages ago. Somebody could have said that's what's going to happen.
So, John,
no such thing happened.
You're not disputing the politicians. You're saying that actually he's not being straight.
No. It's perfectly obvious that was not the decision.
But what he says, reason 1, I think the person that begins the negotiations should complete them. Reason 2 is that my deputy and his deputy, or the next ambassador, Sir Tim's deputy, ought to be in place, and the new ambassador who's going to see the negotiations through should have a hand in picking the deputy. So you don't have a division between...
You had 6 months to sort that out. It wasn't been done because there was no plan.
It was his choice.
I'm wondering what you make of this.
Well, Dominic is tiptoeing around the real issue, which is there isn't a plan. It isn't good enough anymore to simply have 4 or 5 half sentences that are pretty meaningless as a set of objectives. And if the negotiating team don't even at this stage know the objectives, that is a very serious concern. There's the secondary question of what can be put into the public domain. I think the government can and should say what's their basic position on the single market, what's the basic position on the customs union, are they in favour of paying in, and if so, how much? Are they in favour of transitional arrangements? These are big-ticket items. They must have answers to those questions.
That's very simple questions.
This is not the detail.
Single market. Where are you on single market? Why don't they say?
So, John, let me answer in my own terms. First of all, I've given you the 2 reasons that Sir Ivan gave up front, first page of the letter. Secondly, on coming to the House of Commons, I'm surprised Keir wants to come to the House of Commons. Every time he does, the splits on the Labour side are much greater than on the Tory side. 23 rebelled against Jeremy Corbyn's position. Keir wants to see the free movement rules ripped up. He's not got the backing of the Labour Labour
Honestly,
Party.
Dominic, with 11 or 12 weeks to go, to start pointing to the opposition, the real negotiations for the future of this country are about to begin. That is a huge responsibility on the government, and it's no good you simply pointing at anybody else. Come up with the answers.
There, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it. Keir Starmer, Dominic Raab, thank you very much indeed for coming in.
The idea that we're going to come out with anything better than what we've already got is optimistic, to say the very least. And it's going to be an incredibly complicated process. If you read the text of his letter, the line that I think most crystallises the issue here is the line he's written about the absolute paucity of qualified negotiators in Whitehall. We don't have them because we haven't needed them. All of the qualified negotiators are in Brussels. Because the point about our trade deal with the European Union, the point about our membership of the single market is that all the negotiations are done collectively. So the European Union negotiates with the rest of the world. All the trade negotiators work for the European Union. We don't have any. We had this guy, and he's now walked. I almost wish sometimes when I find myself unable to resist the urge to talk about Brexit again, I almost wish that I was on the other side of the fence, so that it wasn't all underpinned with my own very real fears that as a nation we've made a terrible mistake. I wish I could somehow come at it from that optimistic point of view. The problem with the optimistic point of view is that it involves too much deceit. It involves too much sticking your fingers in your ears and pretending that you don't understand things when you do. And I can't do that. I'd rather be wrong than dishonest. I really would. I'd rather be wrong and proven to be wrong and shown to be wrong than to be an actual liar, than to pretend that I believe something that I don't. So I increasingly fear. And even the bloke, was it Lord Wolfson, who was very senior in Leave EU? He runs Next. They've just put out a profit warning about next year's trading deals, and he was leading the campaign. And then you can find little nuggets of optimism. Of course you can. FTSE's doing well at the moment. Low pound means that exports are up. We can sell to other countries because they're filling their boots. We're becoming Poundland on the international trading floor. And Poundland does great business because everything's so cheap. And yet when this fella resigns, you'd think that would be a wake-up call. Most qualified negotiator we've got. Divisive figure. Tim Shipman's book about Brexit, All Out War, which I heartily recommend, paints him as an extremely cautious individual who perhaps could arguably even have done more to help David Cameron in that negotiation that was widely perceived as being a massive failure in the run-up to the referendum. But you want caution, don't you, if you are playing with a country's future? What kind of financial advisor would you give your life savings to? Someone who's going to stick it on a horse and cross his fingers? Or someone who's going to go, do you remember when they started criticising Philip Hammond for being too much like an accountant? That's what I mean by the fear of this word belief now. It's crystallised and formalised. People like me have suspected that it's always been there in the background. You remember, I said to you, this is all about unicorns. Either you believe that you're going to get one or you don't. I believe I'm going to get a unicorn, James. I'm confident in my vote. Okay, that's absolutely fine. If we all get a unicorn, I'm going to look really stupid, but at least I'll have a unicorn to make up for it. That's great. I'll have a unicorn. Do you know what? Great scheme of things. I'd rather look stupid and have a unicorn than be right. But there aren't any unicorns. There aren't any unicorns. So when the Daily Mail today talks about needing someone who believes in Brexit, they're saying we need someone who believes in unicorns. They're kind of admitting that it's ceased to be a political or an intellectual exercise and become entirely an emotional one. That's really scary. But as I say, I wish I hadn't nailed my colours to the masts of the fearful quite so firmly. I wish that I was now addressing you as someone who, as in the run-up to the referendum, if you remember, I was scrupulously impartial. I sometimes regret that, but I was incredibly bending over backwards not to let my fear that some of the personnel, some of the toxic, racist, dishonest individuals who were prominent in the Leave campaign, I wasn't going to let my disgust at the antics of those bigots influence my attitude to the big question of the referendum. I think perhaps I went too far in the other direction. I was sort of too keen not to let the racist liars dominate the debate, looking for the kind of people who didn't seem to be racist liars, the Michael Goves of this world. I was really listening to them, and then he came out with country doesn't like experts anymore. Country's had enough of experts. Well, who do you want to negotiate Britain's future? An expert or a gambler? It's frightening, right? And that word belief is at the heart of the new breed of fear. You believe in Brexit. You don't believe in a negotiation. You believe in the plausibility of achieving a goal, right? That's what you can or can't believe in. And they won't tell us what the goal is. This isn't about the 48% causing problems from the sidelines. This is about the 52% not being able to agree with each other about what they want. And you get someone like this fella, clearly, not just reading between the lines, but reading the actual written lines of his resignation letter. He is just unbelievably frustrated at the fact that senior government ministers, most notably Liam Fox, just keep crossing their fingers and saying everything's going to be all right. He says, no, look, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. We need 27-country approval. We've got to do this. That's going to be a problem. Then, of course, you've got Gibraltar. And that's complicated. And tariffs are bad, and you can't have free trade without a negotiation. You can't just announce that you're a free trading country. You have to negotiate a free trade deal. And he's sitting there in his office with years of experience of this sort of thing, utterly bewildered at why apparently qualified professional politicians are closing their eyes and putting their fingers in their ears and saying, I believe in unicorns, I believe in unicorns, I believe in Brexit, I believe in Brexit. How do you believe in Brexit? Is it going to happen? Almost certainly. What is it going to look like? I haven't got a clue, and nor have the ministers charged with delivering it. And what I mean about the 52% being unable to agree with each other, it's pretty clear, isn't it? So if I stand up today and announce, well, we're coming out of the single market and we haven't managed to secure any exclusions for our automotive industry. So, yeah, there's going to be massive tariffs on all car sales and car movements. And then someone will ring up and say, oh, the Germans will never allow that. And I'll say, well, here's a quote from the head of the German Automotive Collective. It says, this is political, not commercial. We will not put pressure on our governments. It's reaching a stage now where I can't quite see what the end is going to look like. Nobody's going to be happy with the end of this, apart from masochists. The only people who are going to be happy with the conclusion that we seem to be heading towards will be people who would rather be on a ship that's sinking, saluting an admiral who is the same colour and ethnicity and nationality as them, than on a ship that is powering through the seven seas, the master of the fleet, the finest vessel that ever sailed, but it's got a German captain, or a Belgian captain, or a British captain, but not permanently, could be replaced, or a collective of captains, a grouping on the top floor, a commission, if you will, of qualified people. They're all deciding, they're setting the course, they're announcing how much coal we're sticking in the furnaces, they're in charge of the ship. Yeah, but some of them aren't English. Oh, I'm off this ship now. Yeah, but the ship over there that we've just all jumped onto is sinking. Don't care. At least it's flying the right flag. Oh, we've got our country back. My passport's changed colour. So what does success look like? Doesn't matter, James. And this is the point I think everyone on the Remain side missed, isn't it? Doesn't matter what success looks like, as long as it's the right flavour, as long as the flag is the right colour. And a fella like this, who's probably a bit dull, it's a 1,400-word resignation email, it's pretty comprehensive. The simple, central complaint is twofold. The first is, he hasn't got a clue what the plan is, and he was supposed to be negotiating it. I mean, genuinely, if this was any other issue, if it wasn't so emotional and so bogged down in weirdness and sort of quasi-xenophobia, he said to you, he's our top man charged with negotiating our deal. and he doesn't know what the deal is. He doesn't know what his priorities are. He doesn't know what he's supposed to be trying to secure. Any other issue that didn't involve nationalism and xenophobia, we'd all agree, wouldn't we, that that's a bloody disaster. He's our top negotiator. Our top negotiator, he hasn't got a clue what he's supposed to be trying to secure. He has said that. Not a politician, not a pundit, not an outsider, not a commentator, not a Ramona or a Rexiteer. He has said it, our top negotiator. He hasn't got a clue what he's supposed to be negotiating. How can that not be an alarm call for our country? Oh, because we believe in Brexit. Well, I believe in God, but I wouldn't expect you to allow me to invest your life savings on the whim of a prayer that I've just issued. I believe in Brexit. Okay, this guy accepts the inevitability of our removal from the European Union, and he's in charge of it. He is in charge of the negotiation, or he was until late last night. And he hasn't got a clue what he's supposed to be negotiating. So here's the thing, right? That argument about there being no plan gets shot down quite easily by saying, well, she's got to keep her cards close to her chest. She's got to keep her cards close to her chest. You're not going to tell the people you're negotiating with what your negotiating plan is. Okay, I'll give you that, right? I'll give you that. Let's pretend that everybody believes Mrs. May when she tells us she's got a brilliant plan. Oh, she's got a cunning plan. It's a plan so cunning. It's a brooch of purest green. She's got a cunning plan. She can't tell us what the cunning plan is, because if she tells us what the cunning plan is, then the people that she's negotiating with are going to see what the plan is, right? So fine, let's give her that. I'll give you that. All of you. You can have that. She can't tell us what the plan is. She can't tell us what the plan is. She can't tell the likes of us what the plan is. No, we'll just tug our forelocks. Right, you are, Mrs. May. You carry on. She's a vicar's daughter, you know. She's not going to be lying to us. So we believe her. There is a plan. It's a brilliant plan. It's a cunning plan. But she can't tell us what it is, because that would involve revealing our hand to the other players at the table. If that's you, why do you think she can't tell her chief negotiator what the plan is? 0345 606 0973. Answer? Well, either there isn't one, or you are cleverer than me. Because I haven't got another answer to that. Why, if there is a plan, if there is a goal, if there is a target, if there is an end game, why couldn't she tell her chief negotiator what it was? And that's platform one of his complaint. Platform two is that they won't listen to advice they don't like. And this is where the fingers in the ears, the closing of the eyes, the la-la-la-la-la-ing becomes, I would say, critical. Somebody says to a senior politician charged and desperate to achieve Brexit, somebody says, well, that's going to be really tricky. That's probably going to end up being worse than it was before. We certainly can't do that without doing that. And they just go, rubbish, rubbish, I believe in miracles. I believe in miracles. That's what our politics has become. Unless you got an answer to that. Because I can understand how you could have swallowed the idea that she couldn't tell us what the plan is, because that would involve telling our former partners what the plan is. It's like a divorce, right? You're not going to tell your ex what you want. You're going to tell your lawyer what you want. Why would you not tell the lawyer what you want? Think of him as the lawyer. He is the divorce lawyer in Brexit, right? And we are the departing spouse. Why on earth would we not tell our own lawyer what we hope to achieve from the divorce? And if you can't answer that question, well, forgive my French, but we're all screwed. This is astonishing. Absolutely no takers at all at the moment. Why would, if there is a plan, why would the government, why would the Prime Minister, why would Liam Fox and David Davis and all of the other Brexiteers, why would they not tell our chief negotiator? If you're getting divorced, can you think of a reason why you wouldn't tell your lawyer what you wanted? Because that's where we are now. And it's perfectly plausible. I see the appeal. My God, sometimes I envy it. To stick your fingers in your ears and close your eyes and go, everything's fine, everything's fine. It's all about optimism. This guy's too pessimistic. But forget that. Forget his past, which is actually pretty glorious in the context of tricky negotiations. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got the job. Because remember what we were talking about in the last hour? Isn't it funny how all the people who say, no, the reason why these people deserve all the money that they earn is because they're so good at what they do. You cross over to our senior negotiator in the whole of Europe and the suggestion that he wouldn't really have got that job unless he was quite good at what he does. No, that's ridiculous. He's rubbish. What reason can you give me for not telling your divorce lawyer what you want out of a divorce? Because that is what he has said. This is not my opinion. This is a matter of record. Our ambassador to the European Union, the man who will be holding that hand of cards that everybody says we have to keep close to our chest, was not allowed to look at it. So either you've got a brilliant explanation as to why, or there's no plan. Morris is in Kidbrooke. Morris, why would you not tell your divorce lawyer what you wanted out of a divorce?
I could think of a lot of things, James. It's maybe because you don't want everyone to know what you got.
No, your lawyer, mate. Not the opposition lawyer, your own lawyer.
My own lawyer? Well, you'd tell your own lawyer everything, wouldn't you?
So why would the government not tell their chief negotiator what they want out of the negotiations?
It's always been the same governments, haven't they? They each cover each other. They're only telling you what you want, what they want us to know. The average working man, James, it don't matter to us whether we're in or out. The average working man's used to struggling when there's nothing, doing all. When you're earning a few bob, you start buying a few things.
Do you know, I disagree with you, but not for the reasons that you think I'm going to disagree with you. I think the average working man does really care. Not the average working man, it's a meaningless phrase, but people who voted to leave really passionately still want to leave. So they do actually care. But when their food goes up by 15 or 20% next year, maybe things will change. I don't know.
I'm the average working man, James. I voted to leave. Only for the simple reason you get fed up with the way things are.
Yes, I completely get that.
Some sort of change.
I think you're the poster boy.
Yeah, but James, at the end of the day, it won't matter to me, will it? I'm no better off, really. I'm 67, still working. My brother-in-law's 72, still pulling a lorry about, can't afford to pack up.
Well, the price of petrol goes up by 20%. How's that going to affect him?
Well, it go up. It just carry on going up. It goes up or it goes down.
No, it doesn't. If the pound tanks as a result of a political decision, that's not just the way things are. That's something that we have deliberately inflicted upon ourselves. The price of your weekly shop goes up by 15% because of how you voted. How are you going to feel?
But James, I've noticed the cost of shopping go up, especially over Christmas. But at the end of it, you just plod on. We've been up. How many recessions we had? We was in the EU.
You're telling me that you voted because you hoped things would get better. But if they actually get worse, then that's fine.
That'd be the way it goes, James.
I think you're right.
Votes carries on.
I think you're right.
Carries on regardless.
I think you're right, but that's not how it should be. How are you ever going to improve things?
Oh, James, I tell you what. Look at the way they've conned us. Decimal currency. Buy your own house. That was the best con. Buy your own house. What you got to do, you got to go to work. You don't want to be in a union because if you're in a union, they vote to go on strike. I can't afford to go on strike. I've got to pay my mortgage. Everything to the working man.
The mortgage, the death. You're like my friend Wayne in Basildon, who's convinced that translation of mortgage into sort of death trap or whatever the French original is. You're bang on the page. But here's the thing, and thank you for keeping things friendly. But what we can agree on, you voted to leave, I didn't. Here's what we can agree on. There's no real explanation as to how the government cannot have told their own chief negotiator what the plan is unless there isn't a plan.
Well, that does make sense because you got to tell you, it's like if you've got a firm and you're running a company and it's getting in trouble.
But you voted for this.
Yeah, but at the end of the day...
What do you think the plan is?
I don't think they've got a plan.
But you voted for it, Morris!
Yeah, but it don't matter. Will it matter to me, James? I'm 67.
Well, all right. Well, what about... Do you have children? I mean, I'm only 44. It matters
struggling.
It matters to me. Of course they're struggling. They're not going to be struggling less if the price of food goes up.
One of my daughters is renting an ex-council house, right? It's costing her £1,450 a month. The fella that owns it owns 6 council houses. Now, next door to me, her rent is £450 a month. I wish I'd just kept the council house.
Of course you do.
At least I've lived in it, James.
No, I hear you, and I've got no beef with you. And I think perhaps that was part of the problem during the run-up to the referendum, is that you were completely overlooked. Look, I don't really care. It's just rubbish now, and we've got a chance to break it. And when we've broken it and rebuilt it, it might be better. Now, what we're waking up to, Morris, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, it's not going to be better, is it?
No, it is. But then again, when it gets tight, I'll struggle.
Yeah, but it's going to be getting tight because of what we've done in the short term. I don't think that's a controversial comment. We can say, look, maybe there'll be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but it's going to be a very long, tough rainbow. So again, Morris as a Leave voter, he has completely conceded that there is no answer to this. Why is anybody in the media asking any other question than this? What else should you actually... What have we got? Let me guess what's on the front of the Express today. I have actually seen it, so I'm not going to completely play the pantomime, but it will be something like, this is even better news. This is great news. This is great news. The most experienced negotiator we've got is leaving unexpectedly and to the shock of Westminster. Woohoo! Have we got an express? I don't think I've even got one anymore. Here you go. New hope for Easter EU exit. Yay! We're getting divorced and our lawyer's just died. What? It's great news because we can get a new lawyer. But that lawyer's the best in the country. And my ex has got my ex has got the best lawyers in the world. My ex has got, every lawyer that's ever done a divorce is working for my ex. We had one guy. We had one EU ambassador. We had one diplomat charged with these negotiations, and he's just died. Don't care because the other lot, boo, down with them. Anyway, rah, we got our country back. Why would anybody who cares about the future of this country be asking any other question today, genuinely, any other question today with regard to Brexit, than why our chief negotiator didn't know what our plan was when we're supposed to be triggering it in March? If you can't answer that question, doesn't mean you voted right or you voted wrong or you voted well or you voted badly. If you can't answer that question, you surely now begin to feel the scales fall from your eyes. Oh, there is a plan, James, but they can't tell us what it is because that would involve showing our rivals at the poker table how many aces we had in the hole. Okay? But the bloke holding the cards, he's allowed to look at them, right? Nope, definitely not. That would be insane. Okay? Well, what he's now said is that because he's not allowed to look at the cards, he can't go into that game with any confidence, so he's had to resign. You're not going to let the bloke who's holding the cards look at them. He's not going to want to play the game. And, God, the contempt in which I would have to hold you to claim that that's a good thing. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. The bloke who's holding the cards in the most important game of poker this country's played since the Second World War, he's got no idea what's on the cards. He's got no idea what's in them. So he's had to resign in protest and frustration. And then I would look you in the eye and say, yeah, that's really, really good news. Because when you get divorced, the last thing you want is a lawyer who knows exactly what your goals are and exactly what your aims are. So what are we left with? Well, butt kiss. And what have they got? The other 27 countries who will now be looking upon us as a nation that needs teaching a lesson. Otherwise, the whole project would be doomed. What have they got? Every single qualified EU negotiator on the planet is working for the other 27 countries. The best one we had has just walked away because his boss wouldn't let him look at the plan, presuming it exists. Anyway, after the news, you'll give me all the brilliant answers to the question of why the Prime Minister wouldn't let her chief negotiator know what the plan was. 0345 6060 973. Alternatively, we could all put our fingers in our ears, we can all close our eyes, and we can all go, I believe in Brexit, I believe in Brexit, I believe in Brexit. There is a plan, but we can't know what it is. Nor, apparently, can our chief negotiator. How come? Explain that to me in a way that doesn't sound frightening. Or in a way that doesn't sound as if there's no plan at all. John's in Kingston. John, why would you not tell your lawyer what you wanted in a divorce?
Good morning, James.
Hello.
Yeah, from your analogy, the way I see it, we're in a forced arranged marriage. So we just want out as quickly as possible, get Article 50 signed and jump this ship and swim to shore and make the deal, sort out the deal afterwards,
And who's going to do that?
Signed. Well, you sign. They keep on about this. To me, it's a red herring. This Article 50. We got 2 years.
I haven't mentioned it. You just mentioned it.
What, the Article 50?
Yeah, I just want to know why you wouldn't tell your chief negotiator what your plan was.
Well, because we never thought we'd have this chance to get away from this arranged marriage, which we didn't want. We were forced into, and now
we weren't, mate.
We're so pleased. We don't want to lose out on getting out, on arguing the details.
So the bloke who's going to argue the bloke who's going to argue the detail, why wouldn't you tell him what you wanted? Why wouldn't you tell him what success looked like?
Because what success looks like, as you know, there's going to be benefits. There's going to be
I don't know that.
Which are bad,
I don't know that, but I just want to know why you think you wouldn't tell your chief negotiator. Why wouldn't you tell your striker where the goal was?
Because no one's ever going to agree on all points, are they? Either side.
But what's the plan?
It's a
the negotiator has to know what the plan is. The rest of us don't matter. The bloke going in to play for Britain has to know what Britain wants. So why wouldn't you tell him?
Don't you think in the future that subsequent deals and non-deals will be ripped up, rewritten? Once we've signed that, we can write what deals we like.
No, we can't, though.
Why?
Well, because if you're going to do a deal with the European Union, you need 27 other signatories to agree to every single clause of it.
Well, once you signed out, we don't care what they agree or don't agree.
No,
We're signed out.
That's
it's down to us.
Yeah, but if we want to trade with France, every single country in the European Union has to agree every codicil of every clause of every contract of the treaty.
Your first hour was talking about these guys earning the big bucks. The ones making this big money. Don't you think they're going to want to trade with £2 billion worth of Mercs? And,
I don't know. Well, I can tell you what the German automotive industry has said. I can tell you what the chief spokesman of the industry has said, which is that they consider that the political safeguarding of the European Union is more important than their own short-term commercial interests. But that's not what I asked you. What I asked you was this. If you are negotiating something really complicated, why would you not tell the negotiator what you wanted?
Well, as I said, because I'm so happy to get out of this false marriage that, you know, if I come out,
okay,
I'm not looking,
when you come out of a forced marriage,
I need out.
Where are you going to live?
Well,
how are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to make sure that your abusive ex can't find you? So you're just going to walk out with no money in your pocket and cross your fingers? Hope that a unicorn comes along to spirit you away to somewhere safely? John, it's your analogy. It's appalling, but let's pretend it isn't, this notion of an arranged marriage or a forced marriage. Can you imagine any circumstances in which you would walk out of your marital home with nothing in your pocket and no idea of where you were going?
Well, if it was an abusive marriage, which I think it is.
Okay, mate.
It's a loveless marriage. There's no love.
Okay. I hope that laughter keeps you warm at night, John. Franklin's in Sidcup. Franklin, why would you not tell your divorce lawyer what you wanted out of a divorce?
Hi, I'm going to try and use your analogy. It's a difficult one, but I'll try and use it. But just imagine, I'm a dad, I'm trying to get the kids for my marriage. Yeah? But I've got my lawyer who actually does not believe that I should raise the kids. They actually believe
this is going to sound desperately unfair, but I have to make it clear. The phone lines are full if you're struggling to get through. Caroline is putting through the best callers we've got. The best answers to this question are the ones that you're hearing from John and from Franklin. Carry on, Franklin. Why would you not tell your divorce lawyer what you wanted out of a divorce?
So I believe I want my kids with me, but my lawyer is actually she actually believes that every kid should actually be with their mum, but I actually want them with me. So if we have that divergence of views, you know, I actually want them on my team. You know, and if you look at this guy, actually, he actually does not believe that.
Franklin, I'll come back to you probably after Article 50 has been triggered. Leela's in Haywards Heath. Leela, what would you like to say?
Hello. Yeah, well, I was just listening to Radio 4 this morning, and
so was I, but don't tell anyone.
Oh God! Well, I was shouting at it actually, to be quite honest. Ian Duncan Smith was on there with the ex Tony Blair's chief of staff, and they were debating about this thing this morning.
Steve Hilton,
Jonathan
Powell. Yes. Okay, carry on. Sorry, Steve Hilton was David Cameron, so I've been drinking too much green tea this morning. Carry on, Leela.
Basically, Ian Duncan Smith was saying that actually the member states don't know what they want, so it puts the negotiating position completely out of sync. And I think that's probably the crux of it, is that this guy's been given lots of options that could come up, and the member states don't know what they want because they're being told by the Commission that
that's the point where negotiations begin, isn't it? And do you not? Exactly. Isn't it significant that Ian Duncan Smith is the only person coming out in public to defend this position when he's not got a job? He's not got a dog in the race.
No one else was prepared to come out on the radio this morning to talk about it. So
because they're accountable. Everybody else would actually have to deliver. You can't put a government minister on the radio to say, I believe in unicorns.
Of course not. So I mean, this is where we're at the moment. Is there's no objective because nobody knows what the objective is on the other side, and what is the ultimate objective of each member state. And what will happen is that each member state will probably, allegedly, according to this government, will probably make their own deals. Okay, so. You know,
so there is no plan, and they can't tell us that, and they have to lie about there being no plan, but it might not be quite as bad as it looks from the outside.
Well, maybe. Who knows?
Okay. No, who knows? I'll buy that. But this is terrifying. Hey, look, by all means, get angry, get cross with me. Dream up some hilarious new nicknames to describe people who insist on evidence and facts before arriving at conclusions. But you need to tell me why you wouldn't tell your divorce lawyer what you wanted out of a divorce. Why you wouldn't tell your ambassador to the European Union, whether he's the chief negotiator or not. I do not actually know, but he is the one charged with leading negotiations, and he doesn't know what the plan is, and the negotiations are supposed to start in 2 months. Just sell that to me in a way that sounds shiny or good. Don's in Leamington Spa. Don, what's going on?
It's pretty clear to me that this guy's just been set up because he gave his honest advice before Christmas and it got leaked and he was put in an untenable position.
Oh, were you sure, though, that it wasn't leaked by his people?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Because he would be feeling... Imagine if it was your job to lead these negotiations and every time you opened a newspaper or turned on your telly, you had some complete Herbert there describing the unicorns that we're all going to have delivered by the end of this year.
It's completely true. It could have been his side or it could have been the other side. But judging by the rejoicing from the Brexiteers side, I wouldn't be surprised if they just wanted rid of this guy.
But not from the government. There's no rejoicing from the government, remember?
Well, not yet. But, well, let's see. I mean, you heard Farage trying to make out that he can be the... I mean, what a disaster that would be. But
I'll give him a chance. I think he's going to be a bit busy anyway in the coming weeks.
There is a plan from the other side, and the plan is to preserve the EU.
Yes,
right? And
well,
when
exactly.
we come in muscling in with this immigration rules, those are the red lines. It's very clear. We are heading for the hardest of Brexits. There's no doubt. And this guy would have tried to avoid that, and that's why he's gone.
I guess you could be right.
Me, don't you?
But, well, no, I don't agree with you. He hasn't gone because we're heading for the hardest of Brexits. He's gone because he doesn't believe the government have a clue what they want. And in the absence of a plan, I think that, I mean, what was it the fella said? He doesn't care where he ends up. He's going to jump off the ship and swim to shore. That, to me, sounds bonkers, but I guess... Well, to him it didn't, so that's what this guy fears. He doesn't want to be involved in a project that involves jumping off a ship and swimming to the shore hoping that you end up on dry land soon. He's a negotiator, he's an expert, he's neck deep in this sort of complication. But the government aren't giving him a roadmap.
We have a political battle that has gone on between the right and the ultra-right.
Yeah.
And the ultra-right are winning. And if the Prime Minister doesn't stand up, this country is going to be unrecognisable in a few years' time.
And when it all becomes unrecognisable and it all goes belly up, it won't be people like me that get a pat on the back and a handshake for warning you. We'll get the blame. David's in Carnarvon. David, what would you like to say?
Hi. Well, to put it in the words of the sort of Remainers and that, my parents and that, when they voted about the EU, they didn't vote on the destination that the EU's actually ended up in now. So they voted to join the EU, but they didn't vote on the destination. So we could argue about that for ages. But the reason why this guy probably hasn't been told a plan, if I went to my lawyer, I'd tell them my objectives. I'd say I want to...
Yeah, they haven't told him that. He actually uses that word in his letter. We do not yet know what the government will set as negotiating objectives. So I'd change the question slightly for you.
In that case,
why wouldn't you tell them your objectives?
Well, I would say that he has been told the objectives, and I would say that I don't...
So you're calling him a liar?
That he hasn't been. I hate to say it, but yes.
No, that's fine, because let me tell you why you're doing that. Because you voted to leave, right? And you have to believe that he's lying rather than that you've done something stupid.
No, not in the slightest.
So you voted Remain?
The reason why I'm calling him a liar is because I know most of the objectives that the government are aiming for. They want things like, they want free trade. These are the ideal objectives. They want foreign nationals, sort of British who have gone to live abroad.
You haven't read the letter, have you?
No, I haven't had a chance.
That's fine. That's fine. But probably his greatest frustration is reserved for people who say what you've just said. And Liam Fox does it as well. So you're in quite good company. But the idea that you can get. The idea that you can get free trade without really difficult negotiations is absolutely pie in the sky.
To be worse. I was expecting this to be worse because if you listen to the Remainers and everything, as soon as we turned around and we had the vote and we voted to leave, I should be going down with the plague now.
We haven't left the European Union, David.
No, but
and we don't know what it's going to look like when we have. So let's just actually, no, you're fair play. I can put you on the list. That is a meaningful answer. Why on earth would the government not have told their chief negotiator what the negotiating objectives were, leaving him to write in his resignation letter, we do not yet know what the government will set as negotiating objectives for the UK's relationship with the EU after exit? Your answer is, and it's better than any other we've got so far, and it's 11:45. Your answer is he's a liar. He knows exactly what the objectives are, and he's resigned because
he's the negotiator. He gets the objectives. He's the one who has to haggle with them. And the plan is going to be very fluid.
Oh, hang on, mate. Why has he resigned?
Well, people resign for loads of reasons.
But you know that he's not telling the truth. Your insight into the workings of his mind is so complete and comprehensive that you know he's lying when he says the government haven't told him what the plan is. So you must know why he's resigned.
Well, of course they haven't told him the plan, because of course the plan.
You just said they had.
The plan is. No, I said the objectives. He knows the objectives.
But he's written that he doesn't know what the objectives are.
Well, in that case, then, because most people working in fish and chip shops know the objectives. You know, we want free trade. We want people to stay here who are here. We want people who are abroad to stay there. We want control of the borders and everything. So that's common sense. So we know the objectives. He hasn't got a plan because you can't work.
He doesn't know what he doesn't know what the objectives are. You can't have free trade. You can't have free trade, David. You can't have free trade.
Well, this is one of the things they go into.
You can't have free trade without free movement of people. So the two things you've just said cancel each other out. Well, I think you actually did say the words, but I don't want to misrepresent you. We want all the people in foreign countries to stay in foreign countries, and we want free trade. Those are absolutely unachievable twin objectives. But you still don't feel silly, do you, David?
I haven't started the talks.
It's 11:48. So we've got a leader at 11:52 in answer to the question of why on earth would the government not tell their chief negotiator what the objectives of the negotiation were. Our leader is the last fella in Wales who thinks he's lying. He does know what the objectives are. He knows full well what the objectives are. But he... I forgot. What was the next bit? He knows what the objectives are, but he's lying about that because... it's just drifted out of reach again. And, of course, the objectives include free movement of trade, free movement of goods, free movement of services, but no free movement of people, which is absolutely not going to happen. But there you go. Those are the objectives. Free movement of trade and no free movement of people. This is going to be a horribly complicated process. And the bloke that we had tasked with achieving it has walked away in frustration. And part of his frustration is he doesn't know what he's supposed to be trying to achieve. So my question is, why would the Prime Minister not have told him? And the best answer we've got after 53 minutes is she has told him, and he's lying. Hey, but you can have a purple passport or a blue passport or a black passport. Any case, have a multicoloured, technicoloured passport. Jasper's in Basingstoke. Why would you not tell your chief negotiator what you wanted out of negotiations?
Hi, good morning, James.
Hello, Jasper.
I think I agree with much of what you've said.
Much?
But I just, yes, I just disagree. I think that I don't actually think it's such a bad thing that he has left, because when the negotiation last year, it was a negotiation with a view to staying in Europe, whereas now we're leaving the European Union and we're taking a different path. And I think this guy, Sir Ivan Rogers, I mean, he's a Europhile and he believes in the European project, and he's not necessarily the best person.
That's not an answer to my question, is it? And you may well be right, but I would have thought that the person doing our negotiations, the deeper understanding he has of what will be motivating the other side, the better position we will be in. But in terms of Theresa May, decided he was the best man for the job. She could have replaced him when she took the gig. She could have kicked him into touch when that leak came out at the end of last year. He has written a 1,400-word resignation letter, which only got issued to his staff from his holiday in Dorset last night. It didn't even go to Westminster. This is a man at absolute peak frustration level. So you're perfectly entitled to cling to the notion that the bloke that we replace him with, despite having no experience and expertise, will somehow be better. But why would you not have told him what you wanted?
Possibly it could have been too controversial a decision to just completely dismiss him, and rather...
So why would you not have told him?
I don't think I can answer that, James.
And that doesn't worry you at all? I'm
not worried about the process of leaving the European Union. I'm only 16, so I didn't vote. But if I could have voted, I would have been a Brexiteer.
Yes.
And I think.
Even though you don't know what you were voting for, apart from that very simple notion of no longer being part of the European Union.
Well, no, I think the European Union is a failed project.
Yeah, I know you do. You told me that. But in terms of what we're going to have instead, you don't care.
No, I do care.
What if it's worse?
I don't think it will be worse.
What do you base that on?
I base it on Donald Trump becoming president. They've already said that they want to do a free trade deal with the United Kingdom.
Yeah, we can't do that. We can't do that until we're out at the end of the negotiation process that Ivan Rogers suggested might take 10 years.
But then it comes down to whether you believe him or not, I suppose.
Whether you believe who?
We don't know who's going to be leading it now, so it's difficult to say.
So that is it. I mean, that's all we've got, is that the only answer to the question that suggests we're in an almighty pickle is that the bloke is lying.
Well, he's not necessarily lying, but he's just...
Well, you just said we don't believe him. Oh, of course he's not necessarily lying. He's telling the truth, but you're choosing not to believe him.
Well, there's lots of people...
Hope it keeps you warm at night, Jasper. Hope it keeps you warm at night. Kirsty's in Clapham. Kirsty, what have you got?
Hi, James. I think that the reason Theresa May has not advised this guy on exactly what she's trying to achieve is because she clearly doesn't want any leaks, as that would put the country in a really bad situation. And I think people need to give her the benefit of the doubt and let her get on with her job.
It's his job to negotiate our departure from the European Union, not hers.
He's not more...
Not hers. She's running the country. He's running the negotiations.
Yeah. She's the manager. She's the boss. It's up to her. So when she feels fit and she feels it's time, no doubt she will go to everybody that she needs to speak to and say, look, this is what we're doing. And I think that, people keep putting all this pressure on her. Why don't we know this? Why don't we know
No, I know you've misunderstood, or perhaps you weren't listening, but at the very outset, of this hour, we said, let's presume there is a plan. And I mean, the reason why she wouldn't tell me and you, Kirsty, absolutely fine. She's got to keep it quiet. She's worried about leaks. She's actually not going to tell Kirsty and James. That would be nuts. Could get out by, could be all halfway around the world by tea time. Here's your chief negotiator. Here is the man who will actually be holding the cards at the card table. Why aren't you going to tell him again?
She will tell him when it's time. When it's time.
And when is it time?
Who said that she wanted this guy as her chief negotiator anyway? Maybe she was going to shuffle people about. And maybe that was why she didn't want to tell him exactly what she wanted to do in case...
So who do you think she has told? Who do you think she has told?
Hopefully no one until she's sure of what she
and
wants
to do.
That's the other
one. That's the other brilliant answer. So Ivan Rogers is a liar, or she's got a cunning plan, but she can't tell anybody what it is, not even her own husband.
Well, she can't tell anyone, otherwise that's going to put the country in the worst situation, as if there are any leaks, then it puts us in a really bad negotiating position.
No, it doesn't.
So I think good on Theresa May for keeping her cards close to her chest.
Yes.
And let,
Except they're not her cards, they're his cards. He's the one playing the card game, and he doesn't know what's on the card.
I think that's where you're wrong. He's not in charge of this. Theresa May is.
No,
and I'm sure
Theresa May is in charge.
Okay,
Kirsty. All right. So just to clarify, she's got a brilliant plan, but she can't tell anybody what it is until what? 5 o'clock.
The time is right.
When is the time right?
Only Theresa May would know that, and I think we just...
That's brilliant. I'm flipping heck. I could tell you what, I wish I had people like you on my side if I ever run for political office. I don't know what his plan is, but it's brilliant, and only he knows when it would be the right time to tell us. Because no, 3 minutes after 12. Stay with this for a little bit longer because, well, we're making progress. We've now got 3 possible answers to the question of why Theresa May wouldn't have told our chief negotiator what her objectives are for the UK's relationship with the EU after exit. In other words, you're sending a man in to bat for you, but you haven't told him the rules of cricket. Okay? Now, why would that situation have been allowed to arise? We've got 2 possible answers now from my glittering galaxy of callers. The first is, and this is quite popular, 2 or 3 people have gone down this line, Sir Ivan Rogers is lying, and he does know what the plan is, but he's resigned for reasons that are still a little bit opaque, but are probably something to do with the fact that he thinks it might be a mistake to leave at all. So he's resigned, but he does know what the plan is, and he's lying when he says that he doesn't. The second one, just before the news there, is that there is a brilliant plan, but only Theresa May knows it, and she can't tell him, Sir Ivan Rogers, who will be charged with enacting the plan, actually making it happen, because there might be leaks. She would tell him when the time is right. This was Kirsty. She'll tell him when the time is right, but only she knows when the time is right. So only she knows the plan, and only she knows when the time is right to share it. Of course, on the other side, there's a possibility that there isn't a plan, which kind of addresses all of the confusion that this question throws out. Why would you not tell your chief negotiator what your plan was? Answer, there's no plan. And the fella in Wales, David in Carnarvon, kind of proved that without realising it, because he said, we know what the objectives are. We want free trade and no free movement of people, whereas any even cursory understanding of the European Union position is there's no earthly way we're going to get full free trade, free movement of services, free movement of goods across borders without free movement of people. So in attempting to explain how simple it is, the poor fella proved conclusively how unutterably complicated it's going to be, which is why you need a negotiator, which is why it's so frightening that he didn't know what the plan was. Do you? Laurie's in Leeds. Laurie, why would you not tell your chief negotiator what your plan was?
Hi, James. I'm playing a little bit of devil advocate here because I sort of feel that there isn't a plan, but I feel that there is a lot of people, especially in the Leave campaign and Leave aside, that don't actually believe in him, don't trust Ivan, that they would be able to do a decent job for them. So why not put him in an untenable position to get him to go? Rather than firing him, get him to resign so they can appoint who they want to, rather than firing him.
I like it. So they've forced him out. So there is a plan.
Yeah,
but they haven't told him what it is.
I believe there is. I think I'm playing devil's advocate.
Oh, okay.
But I think I'm just thinking. Hang on, I'll be a little bit cynical. Force him out. Get someone else in that they feel that will do a better job. I saw Nigel Farage celebrating the fact that he'd gone on Channel 4 News yesterday. So I just feel that might be a solution to it.
So, in other words, the people who've sold us the mother of all cons kind of celebrate the fact that a bloke who's called it a con has been forced to walk the plank.
Yeah, definitely.
That's plausible. It's more plausible than there being a cunning plan, but she's just not going to tell us what it is until the time is right, and only she's allowed to decide when the time is right.
Pure green, is it?
Purest green, my friend, purest green. It's a little niche, that, but Laurie and I enjoyed it. Chris is in Wickford. Chris, what's going on?
Hello, James. Listen, if we all pretend that we're on a level playing field, then you're not just going to shoot me down for having a difference of opinion.
It's not a question of opinion. The question is really straightforward. Why would you not tell your chief negotiator what you wanted out of a negotiation?
Because he's not the number one man for the job. He is not the one that they wanted there. I think he was meant to leave his position. It would have been around the end of this year.
End of 2019, mate.
Yeah. Well, I read somewhere that it was meant to be 2017 that he was expected to leave his position. That I think that was in one of the papers anyway.
Yeah. I'm sure it was, but end of 2019, presuming that Article 50 could be enacted on schedule and the negotiations would continue. And that's, I think, probably why he issued that warning officially, although he wasn't expecting it to get leaked, that it could take as long as 10 years.
Yeah, but I do believe this has a lot to do with the pride of certain people and also their public image. I mean, he himself
doesn't have a public image. He's a diplomat, not a politician. He hates his name in the paper. These people don't want public images. That's the thing that distinguishes them from politicians. They don't have the look at me gene.
No, that's rubbish. You don't release 14,000 word documents.
1,400.
Or 1,400 or whatever.
To his staff.
It doesn't matter.
Explaining why he won't be leading them anymore.
Oh, what? And no one would ever let anyone know that. No one would ever leak that or anything like that.
What do you mean? What do you even think you mean when you say that? Of course it has to get out there. If the bloke who's supposed to be leading our negotiations doesn't know what the objectives are, it would be an act of treason not to tell the public that.
Okay, James, listen. If you're going to just listen, if you listen a second, the problem that you've got with these people is they are self-interested. They are
Sorry, what people?
the people like the diplomats, many people in government. I mean, you have genuinely good people. You have real good, fantastic people, but you have a lot of people out to just, I don't know, feather their nest.
So he's a bad person.
I have to say that anyone that's supposed
You realise that frustration you just expressed in that side? That's frustration with your own argument. Imagine how I feel listening to it. You're making it.
It's not, James. It's because you keep interrupting.
No, I don't. I need to clarify what you mean. He's a bad person.
I've listened. James, can you just give me a second?
Well, only if you get better.
Please.
Come on.
No. Listen, James, I've heard you so far today shoot down people every time they try to articulate a response. You don't allow them to have a
That's not true.
an answer.
Go on then, carry on. He's a bad person. Did you say that or didn't you?
Listen, so you do it again.
But did you? I just want to be clear that I understand you, Christopher. Did you say he's a bad person? There are some good people and bad people. He's one of the bad uns. He's a wrong un.
No. He's not. I didn't say that at all. What I'm saying is, the way that he's going about things is probably not right for what the country needs right now, and that's what I mean by a bad person. He's not what we need right now. He's a Europhile that's going to be in charge of. I mean. He's going to be in charge of the negotiation process. I mean, how can you have someone who's already put their cards on the table and said, well, I don't believe in this, I don't want to do this,
Theresa May did that. Theresa May did that.
No. He has made his personal opinions
So
known.
did Theresa May. She was on the Remain side. She's Prime Minister. See, this is what happens when I interrupt you.
No, that's fine. No, she was on the Remain side.
So she's put her cards. How can you have someone in charge? How can you have someone in charge who's put her cards on the table? She's pro-Remain. She thinks leaving is a mistake.
No, because she hasn't left it all completely down to them. She's got advice. She's looked at
from him.
She believed in.
He's the chief advisor on this issue.
No, he's not though, is he?
Yes, mate.
No, he's not though. There are other people that are more important than him.
Who's more important than our ambassador to Brussels?
He's not
on our relationship with Brussels. Well, just give me a name. Give me a name.
I don't need to because I wouldn't know how the hierarchy actually is.
But you know there's a really good guy just waiting in the wings, yeah?
No, I don't.
Oh. What do you know?
I don't. What do I know? I know that we need to look at this whole thing completely different. This is going to be this is uncharted territory. This is somewhere where we've never been. But if there's one thing that we do need, we need everybody just realising that it's got to happen. You can't. I mean,
what's got to happen, Chris? What's got to happen?
We've got to leave the European Union.
And what are our objectives? What is the relationship we want with the EU after we leave?
Okay, the free trade. Do you know what you said about?
Can't have it, mate.
Yes, you can. Canada can.
No. I said the relationship with the EU. Canada is not in the EU. His job is to negotiate our relationship with the European Union. You see, you're much worse at interrupting than I am.
No, Canada has a free trade agreement. Will have a free trade agreement with the EU.
And who negotiated that?
Sorry?
Who negotiated that?
I don't know who negotiated that, but I read
people like Sir Ivan Rogers.
Really?
Well, yeah, that's what the word negotiator means.
Yeah, I know, but you're trying to build him up as some sort of.
No, I'm not. He might be a complete Herbert. He might be a complete Herbert, but he's the chief Herbert. And why the Prime Minister wouldn't tell him what the objectives were? Let's part as friends, Chris. You haven't got any more of a clue than I've got. Why wouldn't? Why she would?
No, I do.
All right, you do then.
Completely.
Oh, let's still part as friends. So you know what the plan is, but you can't tell us either.
No. Okay, all right, whatever, James.
Mind how you go, Chris. 12:13 is the time. And his vote is worth the same as yours. Clive is in Walton-on-Thames. Clive, why would you not tell your divorce lawyer what you wanted out of your divorce?
Well, it's a bad analogy, James.
Right, it's mine.
It's bad.
Well, it's the one you've rung in to answer, mate, so over to you.
If I didn't like my divorce lawyer, I'd get another one.
Yes, but he's resigned. She hasn't fired him.
Well, that's what happens in those circles. You don't fire someone, you allow them to resign.
No, you just said I'd get another one. You do fire people. You fire people all the time. Why hasn't Ian Duncan Smith got a job in the cabinet? Why isn't George Osborne Chancellor anymore?
Have you finished?
Well, I could carry on for hours, actually, but the point is she fires people.
It's a bad analogy.
Okay. Well, let me try another one. Why wouldn't you tell your chief negotiator what you're... this is just
He's not
insane.
our chief negotiator yet. The negotiations have not started. What is quite amazing is that there has been a leak. He reportedly has said it could take up to 10 years. Well, I don't want my negotiators to start leaking. I want... in this negotiation, we're negotiating with 20 other nations.
27.
That's where the leaks will come from. That's where the leaks will come from. The man did not do a good job for Cameron. So let's change him.
So why didn't you tell him what the plan was?
Well, why do you need to tell him what the plan is?
Because it's his job to achieve it.
No, it's not yet.
So what's he being paid for at the moment?
He was paid. He's being paid, I assume.
I don't assume. I want facts. What's he being paid for at the moment, if not to prepare for these negotiations?
Well, that's why he's gone.
Pardon?
He was our ambassador to the EU.
Yes.
He is no longer.
So his job, since the referendum result came in, is to prepare for the negotiation that starts after the triggering of Article 50.
No, you have said that he is our prime negotiator.
Yeah.
He's not.
Well, who is?
Well, it doesn't matter yet.
Pardon?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Well, it matters to me. Who is?
Article 50. When Article... Well, I'll do it. Who do you want to do it? He
the best qualified man in the country, Clive. The best qualified man in the country. Or at least a supremely qualified man. You might be that man, Clive. You might be that man. It's 12:15. So the list is getting longer. Why would the Prime Minister, the government, not tell the Britain's ambassador in Brussels what the plan is for Britain's relationship with Brussels after exit? We've got some answers. She has told him, and he's lying in his resignation letter when he says he hasn't got a Scooby-Doo, and he's deeply worried by the muddled thinking and apparent ignorance on the part of some government ministers. That's number one. Number two is that there is a plan, but she can't tell him because he might leak it. But she knows what it is, and she can't tell anybody else. But when the time is right, she'll reveal what it is, and Theresa May will decide when the time is right. There was one other as well, wasn't there? But it was even more crazy than those two, I think. And then, of course, on the other side, there isn't a plan. That's why she couldn't tell him what the objectives are. One thing comes out, and the 52% start tearing themselves to shreds. That's what's so interesting about the canon of books released about the referendum, is the animosity on the Leave side directed at each other is way, way greater than anything that was directed at the Remain side. So I had to read for the TLS, the Times Literary Supplement, I've done Tim Shipman's magisterial book, All Out War. I did Craig Oliver's book. He was the Director of Communications for David Cameron. He's written a very good, well, actually it's awful, but I mean it's incredibly illuminating. And the bloke who owns the diamond mine that bankrolls UKIP, he's written a book as well, that famous anti-elitist diamond mine owner. And there's a very good book about the future by a guy called Ian Dunt and where it might lead next. And there was one other on the list as well. The Owen Bennett has written a very, very good book of the Leave campaign as well. And the two things that everyone agrees on, just two things, across the board, even including Remain, two things everyone agrees on. The Leave side were like rats in a sack, ferrets in a bag, against each other. And Jeremy Corbyn was a very, very powerful weapon for the Leave side. Those are the only two things on which every single commentator would agree. Jeremy Corbyn played more cards for the Leave side than the Remain side, and the Leave side hated each other even more than they hated the Remain side. So as soon as she comes out with something, because you have quite prominent Brexiteers who came out in the days immediately afterwards, Boris Johnson and Daniel Hannan spring to mind, saying, it had very little to do with immigration, this vote. And then you got the chunterers on the other side of the same side saying it's everything to do with immigration. So as soon as she comes out with one objective, it all kicks off again and they all start tearing each other apart again. So maybe there are objectives. And she couldn't tell him because of the wonderful things she does. It's 22 after 12. The day is flying by. Ryan is in Harpenden. Ryan, why wouldn't you tell your chief negotiator what your objectives were?
Morning, James. I'll give you a chance here. Don't slip me down too quick.
All right.
I've read about this guy. He's only been a diplomat for just over 3 years. He spent all his life as an investment banker. My personal view is he had a conflict of interest. I think he's too close to the banking industry to be able to negotiate an independent, unbiased exit from the EU. I just personally believe, when you look at his past, he's got far too much of a commercial banking background. I mean, that's...
So's Philip Hammond.
Sorry?
So's the Chancellor.
Yeah, but if you look at Philip Hammond, he's been out of that banking sector for many, many, many years. This guy's only been out for 3 years.
He was Principal Private Secretary to the Prime Minister in 2003.
Yeah, but again, if you look, he also carried on working for, was it Barclays, up until 2013, something like that.
I don't understand why that would make him bad at... I mean, one of the key platforms of the negotiation is going to be the banking sector in the city. Many would argue economically it's the single most important element of negotiations, is how much of our financial sector we can cling on to. And you're suggesting that having a deep understanding and experience of the financial sector would make him bad at doing that.
No, what I'm saying is that his bias towards that sector may leave other sectors lacking. I don't think none of us know his personal views on Brexit. We don't know whether he's a Remainer or...
I think we do.
I don't. You may well do.
No, I'm just presuming he wanted to remain because he seems quite clever.
Too. Me too. And I just think it's...
No, mate, he's been... I mean, Principal Private Secretary to the Prime Minister it's not a part-time job.
No, but then in that case...
He might have held a directorship or something, but I mean...
If you're employed within that huge financial banking sector up to 2013, okay.
He worked for Kenneth Clarke when Ken Clarke was Chancellor, mate. He's not for
Citigroup as well.
But I don't understand why you think that's a problem.
No, it's not a problem. I'm not saying that it is a problem. What I'm saying is that I think he's too close to one particular sector, and that sector isn't popular with the public. You know, if he was a manufacturing magnate, then it may have been different, but banks is a tarnished subject. We all know that.
Yeah, I suppose it's not bonkers what you're suggesting, but it's not very plausible either, and it doesn't really address the issue of why he would not have been told what the objectives were.
If the objectives were detrimental to the banking sector, he may not have been prepared to move forward. These are just my...
I like it, mate. We're all thinking out loud. A little bit of speculation. You haven't brought me on side, but that's no criticism of your reasoning. It just seems to me a little bit unlikely that he would be... How would it work anyway, looking after the banking sector more than other sectors?
Because the banking sector, as we all know, has never learnt the lessons of the past. There will be another banking crash sometime in the future. The country should be moving away from financial services into manufacturing, engineering.
It's over 10% of our GDP, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, but at some point you've got to bite that bullet.
Okay, no, maybe you're right. So, I mean, the one thing we need, whoever gets the nod, he can't have any links to the city.
Well, the links he's got are very, very, very strong.
Well, you keep saying that, but I keep pointing out to you that he worked for Ken Clarke at the Treasury. I think he's worked for the Bank of England. He's been the Prime Minister's private secretary. He's been in Brussels for years. I mean, what are these strong links?
Strong links. He's probably still being paid a wage by Citigroup and Barclays. So there is vested...
I don't know that you can say... I mean, as a civil servant, I don't know that he'd be allowed to do that, mate. Where are you getting your information from?
If you go onto LinkedIn, look at his past.
No, I'm not talking about his past. I'm talking about what you just said about his present.
Well, we don't know.
You can't be a government. You can't be... I mean, unless it's America and you're in Donald Trump's team, you're not allowed to be trousering checks from banks while actually in... You have to wait till you leave the civil service or the government before you get the directorships and the checks, Ryan.
So why was he employed with Barclays right up until 2013?
Really, because he wasn't doing a diplomatic or a governmental job at that point.
But he was still taking some sort of financial...
No, but because he wasn't working for the civil service or the government.
Right, in that case, if he wasn't, he was working up until the banking sector, only up until...
I think it's a bit... listen, it's a red herring. It might be my fault, this, but the idea that we want our negotiator to I mean, how many links with the city would you be comfortable with then? Because what you've really said is you don't want anyone doing it who has ever worked for a bank, or am I misunderstanding you?
No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that, in my opinion, someone that needs to lead those negotiations shouldn't have such very, very strong ties to one industry, because you're always going to bias, you're always going to favour that. And we've seen the threats of banks.
Doesn't everybody have ties to one industry?
To a certain extent, yeah. To a certain extent, you're absolutely right. And this is why you need someone that's got experience across the board. You know, someone like Digby Jones, who's got a vast amount of experiences across many industries, not just that one bank. I think he has.
He was a solicitor in Birmingham.
Sorry?
He was a solicitor in Birmingham.
Yeah, okay.
And then he took over at the CBI.
Yeah.
So I don't know what manufacturing he's ever been involved in. I could be wrong, but you can tell me now that I am.
Well, you don't have to have been involved.
Well, I'm only using your examples, mate.
But such close ties to one very unpopular industry, and none of us know what his views are, what he said. You know, we don't know how he stands on, you know, the bank's threats to move across to Germany and France. We don't know.
It's not his... I think... But listen, this is going to sound a bit patronising, and I apologise for that. But the point of his job, mate, is to leave his own opinions and thoughts at the door. That's why he's so frustrated. His job is to enact what the Prime Minister wants, what the government tells him to do. So he goes to Brussels with a map that has been drawn by Theresa May. He's complaining he hasn't got a map. You're complaining that his past employment might make him misread the map. That doesn't...
We both just agreed that there will be a bias towards an industry...
No, I don't, because I just don't buy that. His job is to negotiate what the Prime Minister wants. His frustration is born of the fact the Prime Minister hasn't told him what she wants. If we knew that she'd said, oh, by the way, we're going to send the banks up the river, and he resigned after that, then fine, it all makes sense, it all falls into place. But, and again, this is going to sound patronising, and I honestly don't intend it to, that's by far the most intelligent answer to the question we've had so far, but it's about a 2 out of 10. It's 12:30. And this is, I suppose, what happens when you replace the reluctant reliance upon so-called experts with blind faith. It's not dissimilar to the conversation we had in the first hour, actually. This just notion that, oh yes, things will get better. Blind faith that my financial situation will improve and that people who get paid far too much money have got nothing to do with the fact that I don't get paid enough. Blind faith. You get rid of expertise. And experts make mistakes, for heaven's sake. Everybody does. Even science is a work in progress. But once you have somehow mocked and maligned experience and expertise, then you end up with Donald Trump in the White House, and potentially, I don't know, Mickey Mouse leading our Brexit negotiations after the bloke who was supposed to kick things off felt compelled to resign. And I mean, you're not supposed to know about diplomats, but because, of course, he has resigned, we find out more about him. He'd been warning for 2 years prior to the referendum in Brussels, where people just didn't believe that we would ever vote to leave. He was warning that it was perfectly imaginable in Britain's political climate. He could see, in a sense, the writing on the wall in a way that we here could as well, because you would do, as we've done today, your absolute level best to unpick an argument and realise, after the argument collapses like a cheap suit, that the person holding it has gone away even more convinced that they're right than they were before they made themselves look silly on the wireless. And I know that sounds rude, but it is just a description of fact. I know what the objectives are. We're going to have free trade and no free movement of people. That's categorically impossible. Oh, down with you and all you stand for. So he called it right and he warned them, but they wouldn't listen. So back in 2014, according to the Times, he began informally and unofficially thinking about how Brexit might work. So way ahead, David Cameron, everybody else, still sort of blindly presuming the result would go their way. This guy was actually wondering what his job might entail if it went the other way. And he was giving it some thought. He was coming up, apparently, with an embryonic plan. Last few months, at least 1 day a week, he's flown to London from Brussels to tell the government what was going on in Brussels, what the people the negotiations will be conducted with are thinking, where they're coming from. His job, he told his own colleagues, was to inject reality. So if a Daily Mail editorial were to tell us that, oh, there's no way German car manufacturers would ever allow tariffs to be introduced on their exports into this country, his job is to tell the government what the German car manufacturers are saying, not what the Daily Mail are saying about the German car manufacturers. There is a sneaking fear in my heart that Theresa May pays more attention to what the Daily Mail editorials say than she does to what this guy tells her about what the people he'll be negotiating with actually say. So for the last 20 minutes of the programme, I'm going to be a leaver, okay? And I will adopt the role. It's very easy. I know how to do it. I'm pro-leave. I can't wait. I want to trigger it. I want to get out. I want to get onto the sunny uplands as quickly as possible. But I'm going to carry on asking you the same question, which is, why wouldn't she tell this guy what the objectives were for the relationship with the EU? So I mean, don't forget, Theresa May's pro-Remain. She has to now pretend that she was pro-leave all along, but in her heart of hearts, she knew that intellectually it was a silly thing to do. Emotionally irresistible to a lot of people. But I'm leave. I can't wait to get out there. I'm going to get a passport that's bright pink. Seriously, we got control. I got control. I've got my country back. Can't wait. It's brilliant. But why wouldn't you tell your chief negotiator what your objectives were? Errol is in Woolwich. Errol, what have you got?
Hi, how you doing? Just listen to you. Just summed it up perfectly there, just in that last minute there. I think I get depressed listening to some of the stupefying reasons that some of the callers have been coming through.
No, you've misheard it. You've heard people pulling me to pieces and shooting me down, and I haven't had a leg to stand on, Errol. You're clearly not. You're not consulting the box of trolls today, my friend.
Absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely. I mean, it almost makes you think I've got to pack my suitcase and leave because this is absolute madness.
Well, bon voyage and good riddance to you. We've got our country back, you Ramona.
Absolutely. And you know what? The thing is this is nothing new. David Cameron said before the results of the election, the referendum came through, there was no plan B. That's what he said. So there isn't a plan. It looks by quite all the evidence there is out there. There is no plan for this. If Theresa May didn't want this gentleman to be in his position, she could have easily sacked him. So all this nonsense about saying, oh, we forced him, we wanted him to resign, we wanted him to wait to resign, is that a nonsense? She's his boss. She could have put someone who she thought was more capable in his position. So I don't buy into that nonsense that comes in there. And I honestly don't think that she's going to be the Tory leader come the next general election, because I think she's got too many people who want to stab her in the back. And
she can't. I almost feel sorry for her on that front, and I didn't before I read all those books that I just mentioned a moment ago, because the anger and the vitriol that they're directed at each other for being on the wrong side of the Leave side far outweighed the vitriol that was being chucked at the other side. In fact, the other side barely got out of bed.
Yes, absolutely. And I think people have got to realise, and this is the fact, the Times has pointed this out, this is going to take at least 10 years, and it's going to cost this country hundreds of millions of pounds to get out. It's not going to be a quick fix. It's not going to happen at the end of March. It's going to take at least 10 years. So you need someone, like how you just described, someone who knows how the industry actually works. Not
hang on, I forgot what hat I'm wearing for this call. Nonsense, Errol.
Yes.
Nonsense.
Point out the facts for me then.
Traitor.
I'm saying to this, you need someone who knows how these things work.
The country's had enough of experts, Errol. Where have you been? It's 2017. The country's had enough of experts. We don't need experts. We could send in anyone. We're going to send in Clive in Hemel Hempstead or wherever he was.
Yes, we just need more people like Donald Trump. Yeah.
Do you know what? Donald Trump, the one thing Donald Trump probably can do is do business deals.
Well, yeah, that is probably the ironic thing. Yes, it probably is that. Probably think he probably did a better job than Fields. But no, this is absolutely stupidity that's going on at the moment. The government don't seem to have a clue. The European leaders must be laughing all the way to the bank.
No, they're not.
Because they know that Britain is going to have to pay in order to come out.
Yeah, but they don't want. They're not laughing. They're not laughing all the way to the bank. They're a mixture of dismayed and just baffled. But of course, it won't. It may not end here. Other countries may do what we've done. And our decision will look less silly if they do, because, of course, it would weaken the thing that we left and ignore the fact that the weakening of it began with us leaving. Anyway, I'm not wearing my Leave hat very well. Let me try again. Sorry. 75% of our laws are made in Brussels. We're getting our country back. Philip is in Hammersmith. Philip, what's not to like?
Hi, James. Hi.
Philip.
James, basically, I'm just kind of baffled, really, by the whole thing.
Let me help you out. We've got our country back.
Well, it doesn't sound very much like it. I have to agree, with why he resigned. I mean, if you're not giving clear objectives as chief negotiator, how on earth are you supposed to do your job?
Hang on, I'm just going to get my list out. Well, he was given the clear objectives, and he lied about it in his resignation letter, or that she can't tell him in case he tells someone else. But she knows what it is, and she'll tell the rest of us when the time is right.
Well, I think both are utterly implausible, basically. Applying
and then there was Ryan's, which at least had a veneer of plausibility, and that is that Theresa May didn't actually want him to be doing it because, just like her husband, he's a banker.
Again, in the same bracket, basically. I mean, applying a devil's advocate argument, the only thing I could say, and I've thought about this, is that, maybe it's such a grand plan. I'm basically this devil's advocate speaking, that you're doing it in piecemeal. That maybe you're only given so much information, and they're just really planning the next one. Should they have done their homework before? Definitely so. Why are they leaving this late? Absolutely not. It's a good place to be. But that's the only devil's advocate argument I can offer. On the other side, why would you not be given all the facts? Because unfortunately, I generally think that Theresa May thinks this plan is generally unworkable.
Yeah, I do.
Like you say, you can't have free movement without free trade. It's just
the other way around.
Inclusive. Yeah, and I think sending in someone to do the heavy lifting on your part. And why would you not, in the most important negotiation your country's going through, go and stand beside him? If not just for cosmetic reasons, wouldn't it not?
I think we've nailed that. One thing that has emerged from the Maya today is that she's absolutely hamstrung, because not because of what the sort of 48% would do in the event of the objectives being published, but the minute an objective gets out there, you can guarantee that they'll start arguing about it. The 52% will start arguing about it. So she can't let it get out publicly. Maybe she does have objectives, but she can't tell him in case it gets out publicly. That was one of our answers, remember?
Well, at this stage in the game, I think it would help the general public. It would help everyone. I think certainly the financial markets, everyone, to know just what our objectives.
Well, we know that, right? Hang on, I forgot. I've got my other hat on today. I'll tell you what the objectives are, pal. All right, we want all of the good stuff and none of the bad stuff. Yeah.
Well, they're clearly living in a different world than I am, than that you are, James. Obviously, because it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen.
I'll tell you something else as well. I've just been sent a brilliant cartoon. I think you'll appreciate it. These smug pilots have lost touch with regular passengers like us. Who thinks I should fly the plane?
Well, absolutely true, and I think generally, what's happening, if you kind of look really between the lines, as it were, I think that Theresa May is sending in someone else to do the heavy lifting, and there's no accountability. That's what it smacks to me of. There's no accountability. She's sending in someone to do the heavy lifting, sure, and she's asking him to come up with the objective. So if they should fail, then the basically you're pinning hopes on this one man. So if they should fail, he's made a scapegoat.
Do you think? Well, this is the age of the scapegoat, isn't it? So that
absolutely
anything that keeps responsibility away from power, actually keep it at arm's length, whether it's the diplomatic service, the civil service, the media.
Absolutely, James. And James, whatever you might think, whether you agree or disagree with Margaret Thatcher's style of government, that's, I'm sure, a topic for another show. But the fact is, at least she pinned her colours to the mast. And frankly, Theresa May hasn't, for a bevy of reasons. And
do you know, that is just dragging up my A-level politics now. When we moved in 1979 from a long era of consensus politics into what the academics call conviction politics, it was for precisely the reason that you portray. Love it or loathe it, you knew what she stood for.
Absolutely.
Destruction of the trade unions and the hobbling of the working people of Britain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But at least you knew where the woman stood. And here, frankly, there's a serious lack of conviction and conspicuous by our own absence. And whilst I don't deny this chap's of a good pedigree when it comes to negotiation, the fact is you should be beside him. You should be beside him. You should be steering through.
Or if not her, then one of the three ministers she has appointed to these positions: Boris Johnson, Liam Fox, and David Davis. You know what that possibly highlights? Give Michael Gove the job, the new job. Put all of the responsibility for this in the hands of the people that actually called for it. The proper sort of qualified, educated politicians, not the sort of tin pot variety, but. Give Michael Gove the job. Let's see. Okay, get out of this one, Govey. It's 12:46. We are where we are. That's another popular phrase at the moment. We are where we are. Brexit means Brexit. Unicorns mean unicorns. And the chief, or rather the ambassador to the European Union has, as you know by now, resigned in order to, spend more time with with his intellect, I suppose. His predecessor as ambassador to Brussels, he left in November 2013 to be deputy governor of the Bank of England. That was Sir John Cunliffe. He might be a contender to replace him, come back into the job, but I guess they're all going to be slightly tarnished. This is why Theresa May had to appoint prominent Brexiteers to key positions so that she could insulate herself from the fact that she was supposed to be on the Remain side. But no one really has provided I don't want to say satisfactory, I prefer a remotely plausible answer to the question that I'm asking. Why would you not tell? Why would you not tell your top man what the objectives were, what the plan was? And Francis writes, no, he doesn't. Where's it gone? Someone writes, all that's happened is that he's confirmed what everybody knows. Here you go. It is Francis. James, all Ivan Rogers has done is make public what we all knew. There is no plan and the government don't have a clue what to do. Okay, so what happens next to the real kind of the people who, to the real con men and women, the real architects of this mess? What do they do now? Now that pretty much anybody with a functioning brain is going to recognise that there's no real plan and there's very little prospect of whatever that plan proves to be delivering something better than what we already had. This is what will happen next, okay? This is what has to happen next. You have to tell the people that you've conned, you have to double down on the con and tell them that, well, all right then, we don't know what we're going to get, we've got no idea what it's going to look like, but it's still going to be better than what we had before. That's the next big confidence trick. It has to be. There's no other way, logically, that this can play out, except, of course, for people to put their hands up and say, whoa, sorry, we've messed up. We've been lying through our teeth for years. We never actually expected it to come to this. We just really liked being hecklers. I never thought we were going to end up on the main stage. But they're on the main stage now. They're in charge. What are they going to do now, after a lifetime of heckling? Answer? They're just going to have to sell you an even bigger lie than the last one. They'll probably get it printed on the side of a bus. No plan is better than the last 40 years of British history. Darkness is better than light. Peace is war. War is peace. Oceania has always been at war with East Asia. That's next. What else could you do? What else could you do? You can't answer this question. Why would the Prime Minister not tell her man in Brussels what she wanted from our deal with Brussels? Why would she not tell him? The only viable answer you've got to that is because she doesn't know. And if she even has a clue, if she has an inkling, she can't go public with it because all of the 52% of the prominent Brexiteers, they'll start tearing chunks out of each other again. The ones that say it wasn't to do with immigration will start tearing chunks out of the one who said it was all about immigration. The ones who said it was all about immigration will start tearing chunks out of the ones who said it wasn't all about immigration. The ones who talked about sovereignty will be left looking just sort of baffled and bruised in the corner. So the only answer you've got to the question of why she wouldn't tell Ivan Rogers what she wanted him to do, that's how I should have phrased it. Imagine turning up for work in the morning, asking your boss, what do you want me to do today, boss? I don't know, mate. No, seriously, what do you want me to do this week? Yeah, I don't know, I haven't really thought. Well, all right, what do you want me to do this month, boss? What do you want me to do this month? Don't know, James. Don't know. All right, what about this year? What do you want me to do this year? Give me some objectives for this year. I'm your chief negotiator. What do you want me to negotiate, boss? Okay. I can't tell you. So, you may have another answer, although you've had 2 hours to share it. The only answer I can buy is that there isn't really a plan. There are no real objectives. We're flying blind. The pilot has left the cockpit. Unelected pilot. Worst kind as well. Everyone knows that if you're on a plane, you should just ask all the passengers to raise their hand and vote for the person they think looks most like a pilot, not to actually go with the bloke who's trained. So the pilot has left the cockpit. Plane is flying. No one knows where. What are you going to do next if you actually created this pilotless plane? If you turned Britain into a rudderless, inward-looking, morally cowardly country? What are you going to do next? Oh, you're going to... Well, it's got to be better than what went on before, which leads us back to where this whole conversation began. People who would rather salute the bridge of a sinking ship as long as the captain was the same colour and nationality as them than be on a ship that was powering through the 7 seas like no vessel ever seen in the history of humanity but which had a multiplicity of nationalities on the bridge. Speaking of which, do you know how many different nationalities there were on HMS Victory at the Battle of Trafalgar? Look it up. Rob's in East Moseley. Rob, what's going on?
Well, I think your summary just now is pretty accurate.
Lord save us all.
I think the answer to the question you've been posing all morning is that the question itself is wrong. I think there is no plan, no settled plan. I think I understand what they would like the plan to be.
All the good stuff, none of the bad stuff.
Well, I think what they want is they would like to pursue sectoral deals. I think that is...
Sexual deals?
Pardon?
What did you say?
Sectoral.
Heavens above, I thought things had all gone a bit post-Watershed then. Sectoral deals. Yes, carry on.
Sectoral deals. Yes. I think that's what they hoped the plan could be.
So they negotiate individual terms and conditions for individual sectors, individual commercial sectors.
I think that's what they wanted it to be, and there was a great deal of reasonable thinking around that about August time. But I think they've now been disabused of that notion. But I think that is what the plan was, but that plan has been frustrated. So now there is no plan. But I think they're still trying to work out whether or not they can go back to that plan. But there's just nothing. There's just nothing that they can pursue.
Which means that if you'd been cheerleading for this, you would now have to start arguing that absolute darkness and ignorance about what happens next is better than where we were before, wouldn't you? There's no other way.
Well, yeah, I think they're frustrated. The problem with the Brexiteers, it seems to me, is it's not that they're lying. I wouldn't go that far. I think the problem is that they are ideologically committed to this notion of the sovereignty of the UK, and they cannot see beyond that. So anything that allows us to retain, in their view, that sovereign power is better than the alternative, and the alternative
which is saluting the bridge on a ship that is, if not sinking, then the radar's broken, the lights have all gone out, and it's sailing around in the dark. But at least the captain's a Brit, so I'll salute him, and that's got to be better than being on a supremely successful vessel with a multinational bridge.
Yes, I'm not sure that all of them are that foreigner focused. I think there's
no, of course they're not. The nice ones aren't. You're right. Sovereignty becomes a replacement for the kind of nationality-based notion. But sovereignty is in and of itself. You're saying, oh no, I wouldn't trust a law that was a bit foreign.
Yes, and you made that point. It's sort of become a sort of a viral thing now. That conversation that you had some time ago with that fella who couldn't identify one.
And you find that amusing, and I find that amusing, and half the world finds that amusing, and the other half find it evidence of the sneering, out-of-touch elite not understanding why ordinary people and their inability to frame a meaningful argument is somehow something that needs to be respected more. That's it, Rob. I'm late. I've just glanced at the clock, and anyway, Sheila Fogarty is here. Sorry, Sheila.